Welcome to the Fresh Vending podcast, where we discuss how smart vending machines are revolutionizing fresh food accessibility for both creators and consumers.
Hey everyone, Nathan and Isaac here again from the Fresh Vending podcast. And today we wanted to talk a little bit about smart vending on campuses, because when we look at the campus environment, whether it's most specifically, we're usually speaking to hospital or higher education. That's an environment where there's 24-hour foot traffic. They usually have some sort of food service that's already on campus. And they know that they have this need for accessibility to be able to take care of their community a little bit better. So we wanted to talk a little bit about that. Isaac, I'll serve up the topic to you like that for the opening.
Yeah. It's a great point. A lot of our deployments are on campuses in the US. And, even since starting in Asia a decade ago, even since coming to the US just a few years back, we've noticed the conversations maturing. I mentioned this in the last episode, but I'll say it again. I mean, it used to be such that we would go to a trade show or we'd talk to, a campus and they would ask, what is smart vending? This was just a few years ago. And now it's more like, what are you integrated with? Can we use our campus card? Or how are you different than the farmer's fridge I have in my cafe already? And so universities are and hospitals are understanding that they need to meet a late night demand, but they can't hire late night staff. It's not feasible. And so that's really where we see the biggest need. And so, applications include, for example, on a higher ed campus, it's that existing cafe that closes at 10 p.m. where students still hang out after hours and need fresh food. And I'll do you one better. Maybe it's the dorm where students, don't feel uh, safe to go out super late when they're doing their homework and the cafe is closed and they don't want to go off campus to get food, or perhaps don't want to pay for delivery because they have a meal plan. And so having a smart fridge in there that integrates with the campus card, the meal plan, a lot of universities love that. Um, what about the union or other kind of
Or even
event area?
a gym, right? Where you can have like more specialized offering where maybe it has some of those items from the campus food service. But I think there was a couple gyms that we just launched recently, and I think they were putting like little different like protein driven type offerings in there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Just little packs for pre-workout, post-workout, recovery, electrolytes. So yeah, there's definitely um, there's an opportunity to tailor each location to whatever the need is in that building. Um, in hospitals and healthcare campuses, we see most commonly our smart fridge is put in the ER or a doctor's lounge or a cafe. So those are just some of the applications that we see on campuses.
Yeah, that's great. I think another thing that's really interesting in addition to those applications is how universities are getting it stocked. So you mentioned before that there are solutions out there like Farmer's Fridge where it's their hardware, they stock it, they get to decide exactly what they put in there. If it's not selling enough, they pull it out. If it is selling well, the majority is their revenue and they can usually do some sort of little profit share. I think for today's purposes, what we're talking about are smart fridges when you get it from a company that sells you the hardware and software to manage it, but you really have to figure out where is the food coming from. And sometimes that's an easy answer of we have a campus food service and we want all that revenue going directly into our pockets. But in today's world, the other end of that is labor, right? A lot of campuses are saying we can't increase labor. And there's also like solutions in the middle where they say, we want to bring it in. We have a campus food service, but the goal is to both, maybe they're closing the cafe 2 hours earlier because that last 2 hours isn't really busy peak good sales times where they're losing money. And then at the same time, we're also introducing this amenity. So that's kind of the half step between having the food service, fully, have it run fully, maybe in a dorm or a place like that where they've never had fresh food. The half step is having it just outside the cafe where they maybe trim those hours. And then I would say the full step in the opposite direction is working with a local food company, maybe a company that's already coming on campus. Maybe they already have a physical location on campus, or they do a lot of catering where they fully take over the operations there. It's their food, they're stocking it. Again, kind of similar to the farmer's fridge side. They're able to get all the revenue and maybe there's a profit share there. I think the thing that I like about that model is that no matter what it is, you can tailor that offering inside the fridge when you're not locked into, kind of a model similar to Farmer's Fridge. Although I do use their fridges a lot when I travel and I see them in the airport. I think it's a great product. So I think those are some of the kind of operational considerations, whether you have in-house food service, or maybe it's even a partner company like the, Sodexo Compass Airmarks of the world, and really figuring out, I think for those campuses, whether it's, healthcare or higher ed, it's all about that nurse at 2 a.m., that student at 11 p.m., and saying, if that's the goal and we work backwards, we have the hardware, we have companies either on campus or close to campus that would be happy to get that revenue. So how do we get this in place and really make sure that the taking care of the community is the North Star to kind of drive the initiative?
Yeah, and sometimes it's half and half, right? So in that athletics fridge that we were just talking about, this is a small school in LA. They had some shelves stocked with that kind of with their electrolytes or the protein drinks that they were bulk ordering from a Costco or wholesale club, and then the bottom three shelves were meals that they ordered from an outside vendor and had their dining team make as well. So the adaptability of a smart vending platform or a smart fridge is what operators really enjoy when they go with this solution. Speaking of kind of merchandising, Nathan, I kind of want to touch on the three different, I call them tiers or categories that we see operators fall into when they are thinking about a merchandising strategy. So the way we like to think about it is when our operators are thinking about what to put in their smart fridges, we usually give them a chart where a graphic where it kind of shows three different tiers. The first is better vending. The middle one is called food security, and the last one is called fresh food destination. And better vending, just starting there, is an offering that's a little bit better than a vending machine, right? So instead of Snickers and Snapples and Skittles, you're getting something like maybe it's a Hot Pocket, a frozen burrito, or maybe a Lunchable.
Yeah, Lunchables is another good one that we use a lot of times. I think
Totally.
that better vending practice is something that brings one of our clients to mind that's a manufacturing facility. And they had, a break room with, three shifts a day and old school kind of Snickers and Snapples. And for them, it was a big win, right? To go from that to having kind of that scenario that you mentioned of, microwave burritos or, the Lunchables. That's a really big win for them. But when you talk about the three categories, Isaac, destination being so how do we graduate? What does that offering look like when somebody graduates to the next level, when they have the operational resources to kind of level up from there?
Right, and I will say, Nathan, talking about these categories, it is totally based on, yeah, the operational resources and the needs of the community and the preferences of the community, right? You don't want to be going into maybe a manufacturing plant and offering like vegan quinoa bowls necessarily, because that may not be what they want. And so, um, each of these is a win. They're just different types of wins, right? And so, say you are a food service team and you are able to offer a nice sandwich or a wrap or like a salad. That's kind of what we call food security. So you're getting a meal, a fresh meal that you wouldn't be able to find in the freezer aisle of a grocery store. It's something that was made, and so that's kind of more the fresh food kind of security scenario, and we see this on many campuses. And again, the ROI is a little bit better than the better vending. The
It's
option
usually an extension of their grab and go program, right? Like what's already working.
Totally, totally. And then a step up from that is a fresh food destination. And this is where you kind of get into some operators, they like to just put items that you can only find in the micro store, where people love to go there to get that special. Oh, I really want that chicken thigh with brown rice. I really want that sushi roll. I really want that creme brulee, whatever it is. Um, this is where kind of the ROI source.
Yeah, I think it's really important for, especially on campuses, to really call that out in advance because, quite often when you go into those environments, there's a lot of things at play, right? Like I think there's a lot of people out there that would say, "Oh my gosh, I can get a sushi dragon roll, 24 hours a day. That's absolutely amazing." Um, but you have to look at, again, what are those resources from we're really looking at how do we best serve like 80% of the community, right? We want to make most people feel taken care of because you're never going to make everybody happy. But taking a look at that, you may realize that, because of things like labor and shelf life, the price point has to hit a certain thing to serve the community. You may realize that a $9 chicken Caesar salad is that sweet spot. Could you have a higher end, $12 kale Caesar, or chicken Caesar salad? Sure. But like you said, it's about looking at the resources, looking at the community and finding what is that middle ground and really identifying that as part of your homework before you try to launch on a campus. So you really knock it out of the park because if you give a great amenity to the community, they're going to buy a lot of product. It's going to be a much larger ROI and it's going to be sustainable for everybody, long term.
Yeah, that's a great point, Nathan. I will mention, in every category, whether it's better vending, food security, or fresh food destination, we do see some common items that are consistent across the three. And a lot of it includes a shelf stable item or a drink, right? And that's because uh, one, you don't want to stock completely with fresh because you run into the issue of if it's not all eaten, then you come run into the issue of waste. So we always while we try not to be prescriptive, we always encourage our operators to think about what would drive daily visits. So what product would have to be in this micro store for you to come back 3 times a week? Is it that ritual item like a Starbucks Frappuccino? Maybe it's the oatmeal. And then of course the shelf stable kind of more palatable items. And the reason I mention these is that again, we get asked this question, what do you see sells the best? And we don't want to be prescriptive, but it tends to be something like a ritualistic drink, some shelf stable, palatable, more impulse items, and also their fresh food. I think of we do have a few machines out there that are 100% fresh, and it works great for them because they're on a campus, for example, and students will just raid the smart fridge and they'll eat everything up. Whereas we just launched another university that put it in their campus airport where the foot traffic maybe isn't as high and it's a ways off from the dining location, the kitchen. And so we look at it, Nathan and I were just looking at the photo of it, and it's like our first comment was, whoa, it's stocked pretty full with drinks. And sometimes we have to stop ourselves and saying, while we started this, and this is a nod to our mission, while we started this to democratize fresh food, um, we can't expect every operator to stock only with fresh, one from an operational resource perspective, another one from a waste perspective, another one from a demand perspective, right? So these fridges at the airport, they had a lot of drinks, but then of course in the bottom few shelves there were some salads, there were some sandwiches, there were some fresh food items. And so again, in all cases, whatever tier you fall into, you're going to be successful with some drinks, with some shelf stable as well most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all about, like we said, you said they're all wins, right? It's about leveling up, better accessibility, and just taking better care of the community. And when you really get dialed into those human beings that you're taking care of, um, and you refine, especially in the first like 2 months when you launch, get out there, talk to them. Very quickly, you're going to make those refinements. you're going to understand, get dialed in even tighter on your price points and things like shelf life, and pull some things out and maybe double down on some other things that are selling well. You'll get yourself in a great position for serving that community with the right amount of shelf stable products. There's nothing wrong with, putting chips or cake or all those types of things in there. It's just about how do we level up and make a sustainable business out of it.
Great. So that's all about merchandising. That's a little crash course there. Say you are a campus higher ed, healthcare, or office, and you know you've chosen a solution. And if you kind of want a market analysis of all the smart vending solutions out there, I would encourage you to check out episode 15. But say you've chosen that solution, and Nathan, um, a lot of people do a lot of research before doing this because it's new technology and they need to know that they're bringing something on that's going to take care of their community, that's going to bring in revenue for the program. What other attributes should they consider other than the food that goes in?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit about, we had talked about this a bit in our previous episode of think about what your goal is, right? So I think those three tiers of service that Isaac just mentioned, um, think about that, and then you work backwards, right? So the previous episode we talk about what are the different technologies that are available? What's most aligned with like what I'm trying to do? There's plenty of companies out there that say, hey, listen, I want to have an offering that's kind of like a mini 7-Eleven in terms of like quality and like stable items and things like that. Um, there's some solutions out there that are great for that, and some of them that are very economical. But really understanding what is your goal and then working backwards from there. So another one is once you choose that technology, you're looking that's best suited to support your vision. Then it's taking a look at things like shelf space is one that we talk about a lot. Our company specifically, we focused on, selling high volumes of like restaurant quality food is kind of our niche within the industry. So for us, our shelf space is by far the largest, but not everybody needs that. If you're going into an office of 50 people, you can do just fine with a smaller, model fridge. So I would say shelf space is a big one. And when you're looking at technologies that have scales or use weights, understand that you can't use the entire shelf. It's the portion of the shelf that has the scale is kind of like the usable space. I think that's the biggest one that comes up. Isaac, what about, is there anything that you can think of in terms of, functionality versus like aesthetics, I think is another one.
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, th- just over the past few years since I've seen the US market really take on smart vending, I've been able to be surprised walking into airports or on college campuses, and I see different smart vending solutions, whether they're smart fridges or competitors to Food Spot or even our own machines. And there's a wide variety of uh, you know, what a fridge looks like, So um, some of them are definitely more affordable, and they are built with plastic. Others maybe look a little more futuristic. Our machine, is stainless steel built in the U.S. And so, depending on kind of what you're going for from a brand perspective, there's a lot of options to choose from, and they each have different levels of price, obviously. But think about when you don't have a cashier there and you're trying to sell your food or whatever you're trying to sell out of a smart fridge, what kind of feeling do you want to engender in your customer? And that's what I would kind of encourage you to think about when it comes to aesthetic. And then of course your budget, right? So
Yeah, and it's very different. I know one that comes to mind is like Vicky is a smart fridge that it's based on weights. It looks very like cool and futuristic. For some people, that may want to be, what they put out there. I think, if you're putting a smart fridge in your employee break room, maybe aesthetics don't matter as much, right? if you're putting it, in a place and you're a company that's very brand forward and it's customer facing, maybe aesthetics do matter more. So just kind of thinking through some of those things, I think can help make a decision that maybe better serves kind of your branding on that side. I think also we had mentioned, and we talked about this in a recent episode about getting up and getting the operation up off the ground. I know there's some companies out there that sell this to you as if you were selling or buying a toaster, and they say, "Yep, here you go. Here's your fridge. Here's the user manual." Isaac, can you elaborate a little bit on kind of what that looks like when you're talking about how do I get up and running and kind of working with all the different campus departments and things like that?
Yeah, yeah. Launching a smart vending solution on your campus, it requires a team, right? There's not only the culinary aspect of who's making the food and stocking it, but how are you going to get it integrated with your campus card, for example, or who's going to be receiving the machine? Are they going to have the right instructions to know how to uncrate it and set it up from a software hardware perspective? And so, as you look at these solutions, think about and ask the questions of, how will I be supported in learning how to launch this thing? How will I be supported in gathering all the right stakeholders within my organization to set up the payments processing? Who is the payments processor? Is that someone that I'm familiar with? Are they integrated with my payroll deduct if I do that? So just understanding, will this solution support me in launching? And will this solution support me when I have an issue? Who do I go? Will I be able to talk to a human? Will I be able to, get responsive feedback to uh, my merchandising strategy if I email someone? And so, and what I'll say about this, Nathan, is you can tell in the first few calls the level of support that you will get should you move forward with this solution. I remember a few years ago, I was applying to a few programs. I'm not going to name names, but I remember one of the programs that required me to create an account to to apply. And when you create an account, they send you a confirmation email to make sure that it's really you. And I created this account and I was waiting for the email and I couldn't find the email for the life of me. And a few weeks later, I found it in my spam. And in my head, I thought, if this is like a established organization and they haven't figured out from their IT side of things how to like send the email to my primary inbox. And I ended up joining the program, and the technology and IT in that program was horrendous. And so I think I share that story because, same thing when you're interviewing for a job. It's like the company will show you what they're like the first time you talk with them.
Yeah, I think another that's a great analogy. And I think another, it's like you don't, it's kind of like your insurance company for your car. It's like it's not until you get into an accident that you're like, wait, is this as good as I thought it was, or is this what I understood? But it's not like you're working with Allstate or State Farm where you're like, yes, I know plenty of people that have done this before, because smart vending's kind of newer. One of the things that I think can be a telltale sign when you look at the ongoing support is digging a bit deeper and saying, okay, walk me through a scenario. So my fridge breaks. Who do I call? Is it a human or is it some sort of form that I fill out? How soon is somebody going to get back to me? How soon is somebody going to come on campus to fix this? And really digging into those questions to understand, A, what is the response time to be able to get back online and get selling and take care of our community and drive that ROI? And then B, what is the actual like human element in there? Is it a call center somewhere else? Is it somebody from your company? So I think that's something that it's an amazing to get a smart fridge, get that amenity, take care of the community. But it can be incredibly costly, especially if you're offline for days or even weeks, that you don't have that revenue coming in. It just drives a lot of frustration and sucks a lot of time. So that's something that you definitely want to dig deeper when you're talking to companies to walk through that scenario and understand your future self. What is that experience going to be like? I think that kind of covers most of most of those concepts that I had in mind as far as attributes to consider. Anything else, Isaac, that crosses your mind?
No, no, I think that's good. I would just say you can learn a lot from how fast the sales team gets back to you and what they're like on the call. Although I'll be careful because sometimes sales teams are amazing and support teams in the same company, are not. But um, yeah, just pay attention to those hints. But I think and I hope that this episode helped you as a campus understand what to think about when you're looking into smart vending solutions. And of course, always you can reach out to us with questions. You can reach out on our website, launchfoodspot.com. And we don't even have to talk about FoodSpot. We can talk about your needs as a campus and we'll be consultative as we try to do here. And other than that, thank you for watching and we'll continue to put out good content based on your feedback. Please, it would really help if you liked and subscribed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time.
Thank you for listening to the show this week. If you're interested in learning more about smart vending platforms, you can visit us at launchfoodspot.com. I'm Nathan Downs, and you've been listening to the Fresh Vending Podcast.